Alright, well, don't love this hand, but we get to Abrade on turn 2 into Expressive Iteration and hit a land drop on turn 3, so I suppose I shouldn't hate the hand. And if it hits a land and gets to play Divide on 3, then we're probably just actively pretty happy. Okay. Den Orb. Okay. So I think this is one of the cooler things you get to do with Abrade, which is it's actually an answer to both of Dragon's 2-drop rampy cards. That's nice. That's legitimately actually quite nice. I like that quite a bit. Okay, how are we handling this? Expressive Iteration and then do nothing? Don't love it. I could Hall of the Storm Giants and just pass holding up Spikefield Hazard in case my opponent top decks or plays a Whelp. I think I want to do that. The trouble is, on turn 4, I really want to have this Divide up for a Townraiser Tyrant. And if I play Hall of the Storm Giants this turn, then next turn I don't get to hold up Divide by 0 if I Spikefield Hazard something. And I don't get to play Expressive Iteration next turn. I think I'm supposed to expect that my opponent would have played a Whelp if they had one over the Orb. So I'm not going to hold up Spikefield Hazard. We hit 2 lands, which... Alright, I think I put Jwari Disruption in my hand and play Hall as my land. Alright, so we got our 2-for-1. We ended up with a Hall in play anyway. Nope, they had... I'm assuming that means they drew the Whelp, which is disappointing, but okay. Hopefully they miss a land drop and I still get to Jwari Disruption, a 4-drop, and then Spikefield Hazard a Fearsome Whelp, or else they hit a land drop and then try to play a 5-drop dragon. Both of those would be ideal. If they hit an untapped land to play around Jwari Disruption and play a 4-drop that got discounted at 3 cost, then I'm in trouble. Yeah, that was literally the worst possible series of everything that could have happened. Bummer. Alright, well, Townraiser Tyrant goes back to their hand. Whew, how are we doing this? I guess environmental sciences, probably. We have burned down the house, though. That's actually pretty useful. I think I'm just being tapped out this turn and hoping the opponent kind of starts to run in to burn down the house. Okay, approach is sort of a plan, I guess. I don't think I'm going to want to shuffle my deck. So I can approach the second sun and then start trying to control my opponent's board and hope that I don't die before that kills us. I am curious. Okay, cool. Goldspan Dragon here into playing more creatures is probably good for me in terms of making burn down the house better. I am curious if if the opponent would have orbed instead of Fearsome Whelped, and if they didn't top deck the Fearsome Whelp. Which, if my opponent would have done that, then my Spikefield Hazard decision earlier was potentially less correct. Do I need this mana? It lets me hold up Jwari Disruption? I could keep this land and then just cast Approach going to 21. Then next turn, assuming I make this land drop, burn down the house. I guess I don't go to 21. I go to 19. Opponent does 9. Yeah, scary. What are we doing? What are we doing? What are we doing? think I'm not supposed to sacrifice it. And I think I sacrifice it next turn. I don't know if I'm supposed to take this 9 damage here, but I don't know that I can turn this around if I don't have that approach that I'm drawing towards. Yeah, Inferno kills me? Yeah, pretty sure Inferno kills me. Alright, well, we got kind of nut drawed upon on every single turn in this game. That's unfortunate. I'm not sure there was a single turn here where the opponent could have done something worse to us, other than turn 2. No, actually, because I had an Abrade, there was nothing they could do on turn 2 that was threatening. Oh, that's interesting. I should try to get more, I guess experience with Boros? To know if I got unlucky, or if I misevaluated how that deck plays. Maybe they don't play Fearsome Whelp into open mana when they can play Orb instead. Maybe that's just a norm. Now, I do believe that means that it didn't really matter whether we burned down the house or not, because I was going to lose to an Inferno of the Star Mounts in either case. I guess maybe I could draw, like, a Fading Hope, possibly, but, yeah, I don't think that was terribly relevant. Okay, so what do we want against dragons? We want Disdainful Stroke for sure. Abrade we're pretty happy keeping in, I think. Burn Down the House is interesting, but not stellar, I don't think. I'm interested in Thundering Rebuke to answer more dragons. I'm interested in Hullbreaker Horror. That has historically been a way that we get to actually stabilize. I feel like A-Alrund's Epiphany and Galvanic Iteration have been too hard to make work in the past because we don't have enough mana against Townraiser Tyrant decks, but that was while playing decks that played more bounce spells and didn't play Key to the Archive, so maybe this deck still can get up to that. That, I think, could be an error on my part, but we'll see how that plays out. That said, I need more cuts, and I also kind of am interested in Smoldering Egg. Probably not. I don't think I'm actually interested in Smoldering Egg. Okay, in that case I need one more cut. I don't know whether Burn Down the House is actually good or not. It might be? Fading Hope is pretty good against all their dragons other than Townraiser Tyrant, so I think that still stays in. I think I'm supposed to cut Abrade over Burn Down the House. I do like I do like Abrade answering all of their 2-drops, but it's pretty bad in that it doesn't answer anything except the 2-drops. We will take the play, we will keep the hand, and then we're going to hope for a ramp spell on 4 to work towards this Hullbreaker Horror. But Abrade on 2 into Divide by 0 is a curve we are not unhappy about. I should lead on... Well, no, I'm on the play, so it doesn't matter if I lead on representing Spikefield Hazard mana or not. Alright, Key to the Archive gives us something to do on 4. Ramps us towards Hullbreaker Horror. Opponent has nothing to do on 2. Do you have nothing to do on 3, opponent? No. Chandra Dress to kill. Excellent. That gives us something to do with our Divide by 0. So we're going to draw up to 6th card in hand, 7th card in hand for the turn. So I'm not going to be able to Teachings no matter what, which means we'll grab Environmental Sciences on the off chance we miss this land drop. We don't miss this land drop, but it's a tap land, which isn't helpful. Abrade, not good here, so we're just going to get our 5th land. Kind of expecting the opponent to play Townraiser Tyrant here. Oh no, just Moondale Regent. I'm kind of surprised they kept that in against us, actually. Interesting. Okay, well, I am, I think, happy to just play Key to the Archive then, and start ramping. I would love to have a D-Spark. If they blow up the key, Doomblade is much more castable. D-Spark doesn't cause death triggers. I think it's supposed to be that I take Doomblade here. It doesn't cost 2 treasures, and we have pathways in the deck that allow us to cast it. I think I'm supposed to get rid of Abrade at this point. I think that's actually not particularly close. I just forgot I was allowed to discard Abrade. Alright, opponent plays Chandra. That's very unthreatening. Opponent plays an Orb. That's also not threatening. Opponent attacks me. That's only the usual amount of threatening. Alright, I think our plan is to play a Hullbreaker Horror on the end of the opponent's turn. Don't think I want more lands at this point. Forsaken Crossroads means that I can play the Doomblade if Key gets blown up for whatever reason. The opponent does have a lot of mana, but I think we can handle that. If for some reason I want a Doomblade and Windfall, what would that look like? Maybe if the opponent played a 6-power Hasty Dragon? Is that even true? So I go to 6 if I take all this, and I untap with a Horror in play. I get to kill the Inferno, bounce the Moonveil, hit Chandra, play Lier, bounce the Orb, have Doomblade up? No, I think that's totally fine. I think I'm just willing to go to 6. Also going to return that. And we're going to kill that Chandra. And we're going to play this Lier. And we're going to bounce that Orb. And that feels pretty good to me. What do you think, opponent? Does that seem pretty good to you too? But now we have to win on the draw. And that's not terribly easy. Alright. Kill the dragon. We're gonna bounce nothing. And opponent concedes. Oh my. Abrade gets interesting on the draw. It's less of an answer to the Whelp, but it is more of an answer to Orb. Also, the opponents demonstrated they boarded into 4/3 haste creatures, which makes Abrade less dead. What would we want to cut if we're going to cut something for Abrade? And while we think of that, I'm going to go grab the kitty cat. Zox is in quite the puddingy consistency mood today. I wonder if that's a good sign or... Yeah, that's probably cutting Expressive Iteration for Abrade, isn't it? I'm really not super terribly excited about Expressive Iteration against dragons. Dragons comes down so much to what happens during the curve outs that it's just hard to find the time to cast Expressive Iteration, I feel. Yeah. Alright, we mulligan and so does the opponent. Ugh. Yowzas. Okay, what are we getting rid of here? Discover the Formula and Hullbreaker Horror are both so useless in this position. I mean, I do have a Disdainful Stroke, and that's not terrible. Discover the Formula is more castable at some point, but Hullbreaker Horror is more impactful if we do somehow cast it. I'm going to keep Discover the Formula, but that's with the full knowledge that that might just be a wrong choice. I think I still need to play the Jwari Disruption first here. Holding up the Fading Hope for a 2-drop creature is sort of tempting, but yeah, they could just play Orb and super punish it, and then I wouldn't have Disdainful Stroke up. The Jwari Disruption here is super curious, because if my opponent just plays a 4-drop, I could Jwari Disruption this. And if this turns into a battle of resources... No, I don't think that's enough. I think I need to make land drops. I'd love to draw a red source here. No, it's a key. So I still don't have Expressive Iteration. I think I have to Disdainful Stroke this. Too much risk their next play is a 6-drop that's uncounterable anyway. Yowzas. Yep. Alright. Now's where things get extremely, extremely bad. Alright, well, Adult Gold Dragon is something we can at least attack with Abrade. If we had red mana. Oh. It's impressive how amazing my hand would be if I had red mana. It's amazing how that Stormcarved Coast probably would have won this game if it had come before the Abrade. But now they just animate Den and I lose. Yeah, I can't beat that. Alright, well. That one's a loss to the mana base. Alright. This hand does stuff. I think I'm supposed to want to play Jwari Disruption on turn 1 here. We could also just draw into Jwari Disruption and not need to be concerned about it. Now we get to have our Abrade up for whatever our Dragon's deck opponent decides to play on turn 2. Happy to Abrade an orb. We have not drawn into anything else, which is kind of awkward. Oh, but if my opponent misses a land drop, then I can play Key without danger of my opponent throwing a 4-drop at me. Nope, they just have Fearsome Whelp. Okay, so this is 2 times in a row that our opponent has played Orb of Dragonkind on turn 2 and Fearsome Whelp on turn 3. That really is interesting because that is completely contrary to how I would have assumed the deck is supposed to play out. But we are seeing demonstrations of consistency. Maybe they just try to play Orb on 2 instead of Fearsome Whelp? Is that like a consensus correct thing to do? Curious, curious, curious. Still, I think I like our position here with Unexpected Windfall and Doomblade this turn, and then Lier next turn. You just really like resting your paw on my hand, huh, Socks? They could have drawn the Whelp, that's true. And I suspect that's more likely, based on my understanding of how the Dragon's deck plays and what it values, but I don't know, it's been consistent now that they try to play the Orb first. Or that they did play the Orb first. So it could still be chance, but I'm open to the possibility that my opinions are not shared by other players. Okay, I would like to, I think, discard this Jwari Disruption. See if we get anything that makes Doomblade not the best choice here. We do not. Alright, and we will Doomblade the Goldspan Dragon. I don't prefer my opponent having more mana. And now we have plenty of mana with which to play a Lier and hold up some removal spells. My opponent appears to be out of dragons. Does successfully put another dragon in hand. I guess, okay, that could be a reason to play the Orb. It might be that they didn't have... Nope, they super already had other dragons in hand. So, yeah, I continue to not entirely understand the choices that players make regarding Orb versus Fearsome Whelp. We shall see. Just a moment. Alright, question answered, and Kitty decided to take off. So... I guess I don't need to Abrade the Nadar here, because the Lier does block it anyway. So I think I can just pass in this spot. Yeah, unfortunately, only me now. Dragon's Fire. That's disappointingly good. So no answer to this very inexpensive Goldspan Dragon, huh? Is it worth using a treasure to kill the Fearsome Whelp? Or... I feel like letting the Whelp stay in play and having one more mana to play around with Discover and Key to the Archive is probably preferable. Okay. Well, I guess that Discover the Formula gave me an answer to Goldspan Dragon and Fearsome Whelp. Or I could ignore the Fearsome Whelp and make a land drop here. I'm about to lose all this treasure. Next turn, I can key. I think I'm probably supposed to kill the Fearsome Whelp at this point rather than make a land drop, but I feel bad about that. Okay. Adult Gold Dragon, I could technically leave them with a Goldspan Dragon. Just answer the Gold Dragon and the Fearsome Whelp. The advantage of that being I don't have to sacrifice a treasure to do that. But they get a treasure. And that both enables them to play more creatures post-combat, but also have mana to activate lands more easily. So I think I'm not supposed to. Because of that Adult Gold Dragon, we've now reached a point where I don't think the Fearsome Whelp actually matters, but holding on to the Spikefield Hazard doesn't accomplish much. Hullbreaker Horror into Expressive Iteration, actually bouncing the Adult Gold Dragon? Oh wow, that means Spikefield Hazarding the Whelp actually made a huge difference. How much do you cost? 4? Yeah, I think that's the line. If the Whelp had hit and I had gone to 4, I actually would have been unable to take this line. So that's pretty neat. Do I want Fading Hope in hand? It is an instant speed spell. Do I have to just evaluate that as being more important than Expressive Iteration drawing cards next turn? I think so, because I think my plan for the next turn is to just play Key to the Archive to bounce the Gold Dragon again, and then I need a way to do something at instant speed. And I can't guarantee that Expressive Iteration will actually find something at instant speed. Yeah, Fading Hope can also hit the lands, which Hullbreaker Horror's ability at instant speed would not do. Or I die. Sure. Yeah. Well, I think we would have won that game if Expressive Iteration had hit an untapped land in addition to the Fading Hope, but what you gonna do? That also might mean that if I had played the Spikefield Hazard as a land, instead of Spikefielding the... Oh no, Spikefielding the 1/1, I was totally wrong. Didn't actually change that, because we would have had one more treasure, and we would have had the ability to Spikefield on the next turn, which was an instant speed way to bounce stuff, which, yeah, there were a lot of ways in which the Spikefield line was not actually better. Bummer. Okay. Horror, Disdainful Stroke, Thundering Rebuke, cut. What did we cut? We cut an Abrade on the play, and a Galvanic Iteration, and an A-Alrund's Epiphany. I think I still stick with that. play. Alright, we got a hand that does stuff. I think I play this out Stormcarved Coast into Riverglide Pathway. My logic being that since I'm on the play, I want to Jwari Disruption basically any 2-drop that they could play. And then I Expressive Iteration to try to hit a land drop on 3. Maybe I Abrade instead, and then... Yeah, actually, maybe I Abrade instead. Enjoyed the podcast this week and the insights. Hey! Glad you enjoyed it. It was really fun to get to be a part of. Maybe I just don't... Well, no, I mean, the Jwari Disruption is still probably going to be useful on turn 4. And because I know I'm denying them ramp on 2 no matter what, it's okay to play Jwari Disruption as my tap land on turn 3. Or the opponent can just do nothing. That's fine. Alright, well, they can't do anything meaningful at instant speed here, so I think I'm just supposed to play Expressive Iteration to try to get some value off of hitting a land. I've already got a lot of 4-mana ramp spells. I don't need this Expressive Iteration. Do I want it? Do I want Key? I don't know. I can always discard the Key to the Key. Here. Oh, do I name black with this or red? I think I name black with this. Horror. Interesting. I think we keep that on top. I don't really want to jam Key here. I think I just want to pressure them to have Townraiser Tyrant, because if they don't have Townraiser Tyrant, then I'm going to Unexpected Windfall to hit my next land drop. And Moonveil Regent continues to not be a 4-drop that usually matters. So I think we're Unexpected Windfall, discarding Key, and we're probably going to play the other Key. Unless we miss our land drop, in that case maybe things have to get more creative. I guess I can still play Key and then Jwari Disruption as the land drop, can't I? Yeah, that works. Okay, play Key, take Time Warp, discard Abrade, Jwari Disruption is the land drop. Hope the opponent ends up playing a creature that doesn't matter here, and then we just set up for Hullbreaker Horror, Fading Hope on their turn. Come to think of it, it might be that none of the creatures they could possibly play matter here. I looked for the podcast and couldn't find it. Does anyone have a link? Let me see if I can find one. Yeah, copy link address. This ought to be to the... They played a land already. This ought to be to the YouTube version of it, I believe. They have not played a land. I don't think I'm willing to bounce the Den of the Bugbear in that case. I think I value this treasure too much. Nice. Hit a land drop. Love to see it. I'm white with this one, why not? More Hullbreaker Horrors. Don't think I need that. Think I'd prefer land drops. Okay, opponent. I have 9 mana to work with, which means I have Hullbreaker Horror to block 1 creature, and then a Fading Hope to try to fizzle interaction from them. Valorous Stance is probably the thing I ought to be most concerned of here. I don't think that's a likely card for them to be playing, typically. But, well, they made the land drop already, right? Yes, so they can only have something that costs 1 mana, which means I'm willing to just bounce my opponent's board. I don't think I'm giving them an opening here. I don't want them to get treasures with Goldspan Dragon. It seems like I just win at that point. Opponent agrees. Alright, once again attempting to do this on the draw. That means we bring in the third Abrade and cut the Expressive Iteration, I think. On the draw, we have to care about Spikefield on our opponent's second turn, which means hands that have Spikefield plus untapped red source are at a premium. Hands that have 6 lands and a 4-drop are not at a premium. This hand isn't good, and our opponent kept 7, so I believe we've probably just lost, but we'll see where this goes. Immediately drew a 6-drop. That's a problem. Opponent's got an orb. That's... could be worse. I think I'm just supposed to take this opportunity to scry and not try to bluff a counterspell. I want Thundering Rebuke. I just don't think I can afford to spend a draw step on Thundering Rebuke when I have so much expensive stuff in my hand currently. It is Townraiser Tyrant. That is the worst case scenario. Usually is. So we will decline, take some damage, play our land. Hit another land draw. That's good. That's good. That means I get to bounce something this turn and then play Key to the Archive next turn. Is orb any color? Yeah. Huh. That makes orb kind of interesting with Niv Mizzet. Nothing, says the opponent. Well, I absolutely, completely loathe bouncing Townraiser Tyrant here, but I can't use this mana to do nothing, and re-giving them an ETB effect is still better for me than taking 4 damage every turn. Let's take Sciences. We will not sacrifice the coast. We will play a land and play Key to the Archive. Oh, Time Warp and Approach are both real interesting. I think Time Warp's generally stronger, and I think that's still true here. I think I'm getting rid of Expressive Iteration, probably. I want my next turn to be Environmental Sciences into Time Warp. And I think Discover the... do I have time for Discover the Formula to matter? I don't know that I do. Hullbreaker Horror feels like how I win this game, though. And discounting it with Discover the Formula and giving ourselves more tools. Maybe I'm actually supposed to get rid of Burn Down the House. That's not impossible, but I'm going to get rid of Expressive Iteration and see. Mars Cannoneer, thanks for the follow. Glad you're enjoying the stream. Oh, I'm so glad they didn't play Townraiser Tyrant. I forgot that this Stormcarved Coast is burning and that makes Time Warp kind of bad. If they had played it again, that would have super punished me. Alright, so decline. I still need that mana. Get the mountain. Set an upkeep stop. Time Warp. So if I discover the formula here and fail to hit an untapped land, I probably die because there's a Goldspan Dragon in play. I could use this mana to divide by 0 Goldspan Dragon. If I do that, I have 4 mana. I can't really do anything with 4 mana. I'd be relying on top decks. I think I'm casting Discover the Formula and hoping to hit an untapped land here. Or a Fading Hope. We hit literally nothing useful, so that's a problem. And a tap land, so we're dead. Well, we're only dead if the opponent hits a... no, they have a treasure from Goldspan Dragon, so we're dead. But they also hit an untapped land. Oh, they decided not to animate a land and kill us. That's potentially interesting. A Townraiser Tyrant. Okay. Well, where does that put us? Divide by 0 is not an answer to lands. If I Hullbreaker Horror and hit an untapped land, then I can answer both of their creatures and have a blocker for Den. Probably die to any haste creature off the top of their deck, though. Is that acceptable? What if I sack... no, sacking this doesn't work. Because I still have to deal with creature lands that I don't currently have the ability to do that. I guess maybe the best thing I can do is Unexpected Windfall. And then sack the land. That's not actually good, but maybe it somehow isn't bad. I think probably Hullbreaker Horror into Divide by 0 is the line I was supposed to take, though. Abrade. Not useful. Abrade and Spikefield Hazard would be useful if I had slightly more mana. Well, you know what? Actually, no, I guess those might work. The Abrade might actually work. Because we actually have the ability to Abrade a Den. Yeah, Valorous Stance isn't something I can answer. It chose a weird creature to Valorous Stance, though, but okay. They might still mess up and once again not animate a creature land for lethal. I would like that if they did that. Then I could Divide by 0 the Townraiser Tyrant, which then they replay and I still am in the exact same troublesome position as before. Well, I guess at that point I could Hullbreaker Horror in response to the Townraiser Tyrant trigger. Nope, opponent actually realized they have lethal this time. Bummer. Alright, well, we die then. Whoops. What's the verdict on that? The Dragons just isn't a great matchup? I don't think it's terrible. But play versus draw seems to make all the difference in the world. Oh, PB, were you the player we just played against? Good games if so. Alright, I like hands that have curve. Alright. Oh, I've actually got a question for you in that case. In game 1, when you played the turn 2 Orb and the turn 3 Whelp, I believe. I think that's what happened. And I'm not mixing games up. Was that because there was no Whelp in hand on turn 2? Or is it just generally for Dragons preferable to play the orb on 2. Didn't want the whelp to get Jwari'd, but we're willing. Interesting. Because whelp on turn 3 is better in that case? Am I willing to keep this land? I think I'm willing to keep this land. Had a handful of dragons. Interesting. Okay. I've never really thought of dragon on turn 3 as a I've never really thought of whelp on turn 3 as accomplishing anything terribly meaningful, because I've only really thought about it in terms of how early you can start double spelling. But that is interesting to think then in the future that it's very possible that dragons can have whelp and choose not to play it on 2. I suppose it also plays around Spikefield Hazard. Maybe that's just okay if you know your opponent's on Izzet. Well, I don't think I want to do anything here. I'm actually surprisingly light on blue sources currently. Yeah, playing the whelp on 3 once there isn't any other line, that makes sense. My point was, or not really point, but my conundrum was mostly trying to figure out if my opponent plays orb on 2, does that mean they don't have a whelp? And it sounds like that's not the case. There will be a percentage of time where your opponent plays, or where the dragon player plays orb on 2 and does actually have a whelp anyway. Yeah, I think we're safe to name blue here. Meanwhile, in this game, our opponent really isn't doing anything. Do I want to draw this land? I think I probably actually do want to draw this land. Deadly Dispute. I would prefer that not resolve. Am I supposed to grab Teachings here? I feel like I'm probably supposed to grab Teachings here. My opponent's about to have to draft a card and draw a card. And I get to play a land. I feel like there's a somewhat decent chance I can resolve this Teachings. Torment of Scarabs? Oh no! I will lose life. That is acceptable. Am I willing to jam Teachings here? Yeah, I'm probably willing to jam Teachings here. Card advantage is cool. Also, I have got Abrades to discard to this Torment of Scarabs, so I don't know that I'm, like, super worried about answering it in the short term. Sorin the Mirthless. Oh, wow, upticking it? Okay, interesting. I guess trying to threaten the ultimate? Sort of makes sense. I would like to discard an Abrade. Galvanic Iteration plus Windfall? Ooh, alright, I'd love to win the game. Thank you, deck. Sorin continues upticking.
Nothing on Innistrad is free.
This discards the Hullbreaker Horror. Okay. Oh wow, that makes a blood token when it enters the battlefield? I've read this card so many times and I've literally never noticed that it does that. I've had this cast against me and never noticed that it did that. That makes this card actually a lot better than I thought it was, because it actually gives you multiple things to sacrifice. I guess now I can discard Expressive Iteration because abrading the City Stock Connoisseur is actually important to me. Yep. Wanna draw some cards. Sure. Key to the Archive is all well and good. I think I am supposed to discard a Fading Hope over sack a treasure, I believe. Alright, so let's start with Key to the Archive. We will take Approach of the Second Sun and discard, I guess, Jwari Disruption? I have to be extremely mindful of my treasure use because they're going to Rite of Oblivion the key, which makes treasures my white source for approach. Oh, I also have to be mindful of City Stalker Connoisseur possibly other City Stalker Connoisseurs possibly making me discard this approach, since I can't cast it this turn. Alright, I am definitely making this land drop. I know that for sure. Is there a world in which I guess I don't remove the City Stalker Connoisseur because there's the Hive of the Eye Tyrant anyway? So the opponent's threatening lethal with Sorin kind of regardless? And by doing it this way, there's the possibility they don't animate the Hive of the Eye Tyrant? Alright. I'm somewhat okay with how this has worked out. I will attempt to kill the City Stalker Connoisseur. I guess that still leaves me needing to answer the Hive next turn, huh? Well, no, because I'm going to gain some life with Approach if they don't kill it. It's a bit of a bummer that neither of these Forsaken Crossroads is on white. That would allow me to be a little less mindful of how I use my treasures here. We can gain 14 off Approach. That's true, and almost worthwhile. I guess I have the Windfall that might make it fine if I spend a lot of treasures here. I think I have to sacrifice a treasure rather than lose life in this spot. So what happens if I attempt to Galvanic Iteration Windfall next turn? I draw 5 cards, not enough to find Approach. Am I supposed to divide Sorin to just gain a bunch of life? I think I am, given that I have 2 Windfalls and I'm not in danger of them discarding both, I don't think. Okay, for a second I thought they sacked... No, it's sack a creature or an artifact, so they cannot sack the Sorin to fizzle my divide by 0. Fair enough. Alright, let's snag... I don't want to cast Environmental Sciences because it bins the deck, or, well, it shuffles the Approach away. I think I grab Start from Scratch. I'm expecting that whatever I grab off of that divide by 0 just gets discarded to Windfall. Okay, so they spend some mana and exile our Galvanic Iteration, which love, because it slows down our card draw, but we don't hate too much. Teachings is in the board, but we already cast it this game. Whoa, Slayer's Bounty is interesting. Yep, I don't have any creatures in hand, opponent. Yeah, I think I'm back to just not caring about losing life because Sorin isn't threatening to ultimate. I suppose I can just cast. Sofa King, thanks for the sub. I really appreciate the support. Yeah, I guess I could foretell this and get 2 blockers off of it. Is that relevant? I guess maybe that's relevant. Alright. Well, let's just Unexpected Windfall, see if that draws into anything that we care about. It doesn't. So we just foretell that Epiphany because it gets us 1 card deeper and gets us some blockers. Play the untap land so that we can cast Unexpected Windfall if they do play a discard spell. Take some damage, sure. Actually, how deep is this? 4? So draw for the turn, draw 2 off Windfall. Okay, so we do actually approach next turn. Target opponent discards a card at random. Oh, okay, here's the problem with me casting Unexpected Windfall in this spot. If they have another Rite of Oblivion, they get to exile both of the treasure tokens that I make off Unexpected Windfall. I think I still have to do this, though. I do kind of need to draw these 2 cards, I think. If that cat hits Unexpected Windfall, I'm in trouble. Alright, well, if it doesn't hit Lier, that's also a super good option. Oh, when it dies. Okay. This isn't a good card. I thought it was a good card, and they did in fact have the Rite of Oblivion. So I totally could have played around that if I actually read how Black Cat works. Cool, and now I don't have white sources. Okay, well, they decided not to get rid of the other treasure? Alright, well, I misplayed and threw that game and lost it, but I appreciate that the opponent decided to just let me have it instead. Yeah, if they had just cast the Rite of Oblivion killing the other treasure instead of Sorin, I was not actually in like a terrible spot, because I did draw Discover the Formula, but like not a good spot. But yes, so when they played the cat, I could have waited until they sacked the cat to cast the Rite of Oblivion, and then I was essentially locking them out of some treasure token, or was locking them out of 1 ability to target the treasure token there. And therefore I wasn't in danger of them using 2 Rite of Oblivions to remove both of my treasures. They would only be able to remove 2 of them, but I would have 1 left. But I'm going to go with happy to not be punished. So, only thing that matters post-board against these white-black sacrifice decks tends to be answers to card advantage. Because they mostly just play like 4 copies of Go Blank and Infinity 2-for-1s. And then some random stuff that pressures our life total and makes us have to care about that. So I don't want Abrades. I don't really want Fading Hopes. I'm okay with Disdainful Stroke, because it counters Sorin and City Stalker. I'm not actually excited about it, but you know what? Maybe I care more about Test of Talents. I can't really hold Test of Talents up is the problem. I definitely want Galvanic because it represents some card draw sometimes. I guess I could just bring in Test. Smoldering Egg is what I'm not certain on. There actually might be merit to bringing in Smoldering Egg. So am I on Expressive Iteration again? Not really. I still don't actually like Expressive Iteration in this deck, and I don't think that it addresses any of the problems the list has. But most of this list is not mine, except for some changes to the sideboard. And I played it as originally built. So far, my experience has been that, no, I still think it's wrong to play Expressive Iteration in this deck, but I wanted to leave it at least moderately initially unchanged as I see what parts of it work in ways I wasn't expecting. Yeah, I have discarded a lot of Expressive Iterations to Windfall, that is true. But yeah, my initial complaints about Expressive Iterations still hold true in the sense that it is a decent card that is good in no matchups. I would rather have Behold against control decks, and I would rather have neither against aggressive decks. Alright, let's hold off on that Forsaken Crossroads in case we don't need to do anything. I guess I could have played the Forsaken Crossroads tapped here and scryed towards a land, huh? That probably would have been better. No, it wouldn't even necessarily be better. Because I think I'm not actually playing Expressive Iteration next turn. I don't think I can tap out for that when the opponent might play Sorin and I have like no good answers to Sorin. I think this turn I'm just playing Forsaken Crossroads, probably on blue. Maybe that was supposed to be on red, and then I'm just scrying towards more lands. Alright, didn't matter. Cool. Wedding announcement. Okay, so that's not Disdainful Strokeable, but it also means that the opponent isn't actually doing anything horrifically good this turn either. So I could Expressive Iteration. I guess the risks of that are low enough that it's probably worth doing, because I do want to try to make sure that I hit a land next turn. Okay, cool. This is the time where Expressive Iteration looks good. The time where it hits 2 lands, and that's what you also wanted. I think I'm just discarding a Galvanic Iteration here. It's the least necessary of the cards in my hand. We take a tiny bit of damage. Yes, yes. Sanguine Brushstroke. Sure. Yeah, Counterspell's not great against that. Blood Artist, annoying. Okay. Am I supposed to burn down the house? Am I supposed to burn down the house to make 1/1s? Opponent has a tough time removing any of my stuff or attacking any of my stuff because I have the option to ping down Blood Artist. Is that better than just removing all of my opponent's creatures? Maybe? Huh. No, because Wedding Announcement's going to flip and everything's going to get +1/+1, and then the 1/1s are actually useless. Right. So no, not supposed to do that because a Wedding Announcement has abilities. Alright. It may take a while, but I can eventually remember what cards do. This gives them an opening to play Sorin, which I don't love. Oh, Black Cat came off of that draft ability, didn't it? That's why I don't recall having ever seen it before. Well, if my opponent's just missing land drops, that's probably good for me. I have to imagine that Break Expectations takes Discover the Formula here 100% of the time. Alright, I think I take Replicating Ring here. It's more or less kind of cool. You come into play untapped? Yeah, you do. Nifty. So I will have to answer that 2-2. I suppose Lier can do that at some point. Opponent knows about the Disdainful Stroke, so not likely to just start jamming 4-drops anytime soon, unless they have literally no option. 2-2 hits face, makes sad. More Sanguine Brushstrokes would be a pretty big problem here. City Stalker Connoisseur. Definitely willing to use a Disdainful Stroke on that? Am I? Would I prefer to Jwari Disruption it? At this point, it's likely that most things that I could Jwari Disruption are Disdainful Strokeable anyway. In fact, the fact that they ran this out into known Disdainful Stroke makes me feel like they probably have more 4-drops in hand that I want a Disdainful Stroke. It also makes me not super excited about jamming this Lier. I guess I could jam the Lier and then play Expressive Iteration, which makes this land drop I just did bad. What are my alternatives? I actually don't think I have real alternatives because I still have to block this 2-2. Yeah, I think I did this poorly. Okay, well, you know what? Took the wrong land. I wonder if... I was supposed to put the mountain back in the deck so that we have more things to fetch with environmental sciences. But I wonder if I was going to play the Hall of Storm Giants and lose the extra card, like if that was just the correct play regardless. Because if they do answer the Lier here, then having the Hall of the Storm Giants in play, threatening to animate and block the 2-2 is sort of okay. Go blank, huh? Interesting. Land and Test of Talents probably in that case. My graveyard goes away. But that means they're choosing not to remove the Lier, so the 2-2 isn't getting in? Interesting. Okay. Unexpected Windfall's really good draw. 3. I'm 1 mana... No, I'm not 1 mana short of triple windfalling here. Alright, well, yeah, let's do that. Thank you, Lier, for being in play. You still do things, like make Galvanic cheaper. Alright, let's restock the hand. Okay, that's a lot of keys. That's a lot of keys. A lot of keys. Huh. I think I probably just want to spend the least treasures on answering Rite of Oblivion. Which means I'm not playing Expressive Iteration there. Yeah, I can discard a key to a Windfall if I want to. I probably don't want to. Curse of Leeches. The beginning of Enchanted player's upkeep. They lose 1 life and you gain 1 life. At night, turns into a 4/4 lifelinker. Fancy, fancy. Okay, well, I don't have to answer that now. I guess unless I wanted to stop it from turning to day to night, but I don't care. Sanguine Brushstroke represents a Blood Artist and 2 damage from blood. Huh. Alright, I don't want that ETBing. And then we're going to decide what we do with this other Divide by Zero. Do I get Mascot Exhibition? I'm a little leery about doing that when my opponent's going to have a Blood Artist. I could get Start from Scratch. Probably supposed to gain the life gain. Okay. Is it worth Divide by Zeroing Curse of Leeches to stop taking a point of ping here? I don't think so when I'm about to jam all these Key to the Archives. Okay. I don't know that I had that wrapped up, opponent, but I'll take it. That was a very, very, very timely Unexpected Windfall. Alright, well, I guess we're going to keep this. I have no clue what to expect out of Woodland Chasm, but I'm going to play the Spikefield Hazard now, I guess. One thing that can be said about this hand is that it is, I believe, pretty versatile and can deal with just about anything the opponent decides to throw at us. Hopefully. Brushstroke. Okay. Opponent, if you are not playing a land before the Environmental Sciences, then I would like to counter the Environmental Sciences. They still have a land, though. Aw, bummer. Whoa, okay. Tenacious Pup wasn't where I saw this going. Interesting. Well, I got Divide by Zero for the next creature that triggers off of Pup. And the Pup itself isn't going to kill us anytime soon. Graveyard Trespasser I would like to not have. Do I want to target Graveyard Trespasser with Divide by Zero? Am I sure? Yes? Are you giving me that warning because of Ward game? I'm pretty sure this trigger fizzles regardless of whether I divide in response or not. But let's see. Is that why? Yeah, okay. Yeah. I was pretty sure, game, that just worked the way I thought it did. But thank you for the confirmation, I guess. I haven't seen it ever do that with any other card with Ward, right? Been having a really good time as it is against the Brushstroke decks, but it probably depends on the list. I don't think that Izzet is bad against them. I think that it's a reasonable matchup. But I don't think that Izzet is wildly favored, and I think the matchups against the black-red blood Brushstroke lists are a little bit tougher. I think we're just going to play our tap land this turn. I would like to put that Graveyard Trespasser back in my opponent's hand. I don't really know what I'm grabbing here, but I guess it's probably Mascot Exhibition. On account of, if we do make our 6th land drop, I would like that to be cheaper with Discover the Formula. Wait, did I play this Riverglide Pathway on... That must have been on turn 1, I think. And then I played the Spikefields for the last 2 turns. And that's why my current mana is like a nightmare and makes this Expressive Iteration bad if it hits a mountain. Luckily, Expressive Iteration does its job, which is to hit 3 lands. This makes the Teachings of the Archaics kind of bad, though. I've drawn so many cards. Brushstroke decks can have trouble against anything that can reasonably outcard them. Yeah, that's why I'm kind of preferable to the black-red Brushstroke lists, since they are a lot better at being aggressive. So the stuff that gets around the 4 Mind Rot plan just has to find removal fast enough. Yeah, I'll take Environmental Sciences, why not? Opponent, I think you might actually get to resolve Graveyard Trespasser this turn. Alright, Inscription of Abundance. I'm going to have a lot of damage done to me by this Tenacious Pup in the long run here. Currently looking like about 9 damage. In my opinion, Dragons is a bit too fast with that Whelp thing, and Teferi Lithform Engine activators can infinite a little too reliably while still staying fairly well protected. I haven't actually seen like a Teferi deck that's I haven't seen a Lithform deck that's a big influence on the meta, and I think that a big part of the reason for that is just that there's too many counter spells flying around for that kind of stuff to work. But similarly, the Dragons decks are fine. I think that they're in a healthy place with the meta. What's the right way to put this? There is an interesting difference between decks that are balanced in terms of win rate and decks that are, quote, balanced in terms of fun play patterns. I think Dragons is, balance-wise, a totally fine deck that actually isn't even that good. I think it's probably like a 50% win rate or lower deck, and I only really consider decks to be problematic if they start like pushing 75%, and most good decks on the ladder tend to be like 65% decks, with 70% decks being like the point where you're starting to hit tier 1. But Dragons is a deck that is not necessarily fun to play against. How do we do this? Oh, this is how we do this. I just play A-Alrund's Epiphany and get one more land drop so that I can copy Mascot Exhibition. Yeah. Alright, let's get rid of Teachings, and let's get rid of Sciences. Oh, I only have to get rid of one. Cool, let's get rid of Teachings. Man, Dragons is one of those decks that just isn't hyper consistent and has to mulligan a lot. And when they don't have a 2-drop ramp spell into a 4-drop, they just... the penalty is that their everything is like super off curve and slow, and they like can't beat most decks at that point. Alright, Ranger class, close to... no, not close to getting 3rd level this turn. Can get 3rd level next turn, though. But yeah, they just kind of can't attack into this, really. I mean, they can if they want to just lose a Graveyard Trespasser to exile a Galvanic Iteration, which kind of makes sense, sort of. It's not unreasonable, but I don't think that they're in a position where they're particularly excited about throwing away cards. So if I play you and then Environmental Sciences, I still do get to hold up Jwari Disruption. Cool. Although maybe bouncing a wolf token isn't a very big deal. And I'm actually supposed to like Galvanic Windfall. Drawing cards does sound like a good time. I think I'm going to go for plan draw cards. I like that plan. I put 0 creatures in the yard, right? So I'm not punished by these flipping tonight. I guess it trades with the 4/4s, so it probably wasn't worth it. Probably should have just sorcery speeded the Environmental Sciences then. Right, also the 4/4s can be 5/5s. Okay, I'm going to go with moderately not great then. Well, you know what, actually, encouraging my opponent to attack with these Graveyard Gluttons is probably good for me because they run into the Hullbreaker Horror. Interesting attacks. Most of my graveyard goes away here. They don't pump the graveyard gluttons. They do exile the Galvanic Iteration. Is it worth... Yes. Drawing cards is always worthwhile. I think I'm probably just discarding Environmental Sciences here. I can still play Hullbreaker Horror with a Jwari Disruption to protect it up here anyway. Cool. Some braids, sure. Alright. Exile-y, 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 exile-y. Play our horror. Have some blocks. Trade some creatures. Block, 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 blocks. How do you feel about this, opponent? I feel pretty good about this. Cool. So now we just have to fight 4th level Ranger class. That'll probably be fine. I guess I could Abrade a wolf and bounce the Ranger class in response to the level up. I want to do that. Opponent doesn't want me to decide whether I want to do that. I'll take it. Green, black, aggro, snow, sort of aggro, sort of not aggro. What do we want here? I'm going to go with I probably don't want Disdainful Stroke, and I probably do want Thundering Rebuke. Do I want Smoldering Egg? Do I want Smoldering Egg? Probably. I don't think it's as important as it is against Gruul, but it's probably still sort of important. Let's bring in 2 eggs at least. Do we bring in more egg than that? How much egg do we want? Do we want egg more than horror? I think I might want egg more than horror. I don't think I board in the 4th egg, though. I guess I'd probably cut key for the 4th egg, I think. If I was playing against Gruul, at least. I don't think I can mulligan this, but this seems like an incredibly bad hand. Duress? No. A 1-drop. Okay. I don't think I'm terribly worried about my opponent having played a 1/1 for 1. Alright. Okay. Removal spells is a start. Alright. And they didn't even play a 3-drop that I'm actually scared of. That seems like something that I'm excited about. Do I bother abrading this Valentin for tempo? I guess? Oh, that doesn't feel great. I guess getting Snakeskin Veiled is a pretty strong reason to have not done that. Huh. Yeah, wasn't really expecting that to go that direction. I suppose I should have, though. I didn't really have my mind on sideboard cards because I still wasn't sure what the opponent's main deck was, but that was my error. I kept a very bad hand and now I'm getting bullied by them. I don't know that that's me doing any bullying. This is mostly just me being in a kind of concerning spot. I'll discard an island here, I think. Maybe there's a possibility I'm supposed to be discarding Expressive Iteration instead, but I generally feel like I live my life one land drop at a time. Unless it's a control mirror. Okay, if my opponent wants to just put lands in their hand instead of playing threats, I'm okay with it. Ugh. But also they're playing threats. 5 puts me to 10. Opponent has lethal next turn, and that feels like a problem. It actually feels like a wicked huge problem. Oh, I wanted to play Discover the Formula, but then the opponent went and played enough stuff that they have lethal. How do I handle that? My Abrade timing, I regret. Should have been willing to just be more patient. I guess it's not quite lethal because of the Hall of Storm Giants. But the fact that the Graveyard Gluttons actually transform sucks a lot. Okay. Yeah, this is still a pretty... Wow, that doesn't cost mana? Oh no, they just auto-tapped without priority. That's why. I was gonna say. Well, I can answer everything, sort of. So if I hadn't abraded that Valentine, we really would be in a position where I was casting Discover the Formula and possibly board wiping. What a big difference that would be. Oh, this is going to drain me for one either way. Okay, yeah. Fair. I put creatures in the yard. That kills me. Yeah, I think I want more eggs. They're good against Graveyard Trespassers. What are we cutting to pull that off? Probably... Key, I think Key. Okie doke, take the play. Ooh, yes, keep hand, keep. Super keep. Very happy, very good keep. We scry. Spikefield Hazard. I don't actually... I guess I probably want Spikefield Hazard. It gives us something to do on turn 3. We're not going to Expressive Iteration, but that's fine. I think we just play our eggs. How are you liking the keys? I'm still not sold on them. I think they're fine. I have not felt like they have truly dramatically shifted this deck's matchup in any particularly notable ways, to be honest. It still feels like aggro is more or less as much of a problem as it was before. Yeah, I don't think the keys are bad. I think they're fine, but definitely not feeling like there is a significant difference. Am I willing to Jwari Disruption this ooze? I think I am. I think I want these counters on egg. We shall see if that was correct or not. Looks like it was probably correct. As long as this Expressive Iteration doesn't hit Forsaken Crossroads as the only land. It didn't. Do I want this Spikefield Hazard in hand? Or do I want the Forsaken Crossroad in the hand? Probably want the Spikefield Hazard. I think Key to the Archive is probably going to be my more blue sources in this scenario. Plus, with how close we are to flipping egg, there's a possibility that just casting the Spikefield actually does wind up being useful. Don't kill my egg! That's really rude. Alright. He kills Pt.2. My egg dies. We play Key. Not exciting. Not exciting. I'm pretty concerned about taking any of these cards. I guess I'm getting rid of Spikefield Hazard, so I'm not really out anything if they lock me out of one of these. Is Day of Judgment good? I'm kind of concerned that I'm supposed to take Growth Spiral as an extremely slow way to loot. I think that's probably what I'm supposed to do. Maybe I'm supposed to take Day of Judgment and hope that Divide by Zero gets me card advantage at some point anyway. I'm in so much trouble with my mana base if this Key to the Archive dies, though. I've got one blue source. Oh, please use Field of Ruin on something that isn't my blue source opponent. Oh, thank you. I didn't actually care about that at all. Thank you, opponent. I understand thinking that I actually have black cards. I get the logic. Their play made sense. It just wasn't actually the case. Yeah, Mortality Spear synergy with Tenacious Pup's actually really cool. I like this idea. Unfortunately, that makes this Growth Spiral a liability. Ooh, Dosky. Okay. That's extremely dividable. I would love Teachings. And I'm going to have to make some tough choices regarding bouncing here. Which is to say, I'm going to have to bounce this wolf. Because I want to draw cards with Tenacious, or with Teachings of the Archaics. Don't want lands. Key, huh? I think we definitely lead on Teachings. Alright. Don't hit a land to play the Key, but we do hit some cards that are decent at least. None of these are useful. Other than the fact that I would like this Hall of the Storm Giants in play. And 2 cards is 2 cards. Why do we have black mana? So basically the pathways are just mountains, except they let you play Doomblade and Demonic Tutor off Key to the Archive with, quote, haste. It's kind of cute, and I think it does help the deck. I hadn't really considered that when building key decks, but it's interesting. Swarm Shambler. No. That makes my Spikefield Hazard almost good, but not. Not quite. If I'm going to Spikefield Hazard the Swarm Shambler, I want to do it next turn so they don't wind up with a creature. Oh, hello, D-Spark. I can't use you yet, but I'm pretty sure I'm supposed to D-Spark Toski. Or am I supposed to Electrolyze and Spikefield to kill Tenacious Pup and Swarm Shambler and leave them with the Toski? Drawing cards is cool. Answering the Toski is also potentially important at some point, though. Drawing cards is too cool, though. Way too cool. We've got bounce spells in the deck. I guess actually I'd probably wind... Okay, I thought they were going to activate the Crawling Barrens there, but this works too. So they probably put the counters on Toski. Yeah, that works as expected. We electrolyze the pup. We don't hit a Fading Hope, so get rid of the Swarm Shambler. I get a 1/1. More creatures. Okay. Draw lands. Not helpful. Discard lands. Draw cards. Not helpful? You don't remove indestructible, right? No. That's unfortunate. I think I'm making 3 devil tokens. I think that actually prevents more card draw from the opponent than board wiping. I need to remember not to play out this Riverglide Pathway in case I draw... Dislike that. Well, actually I don't dislike that. I think I still get to wipe their board here, so they should have attacked with everything. Oh no, they put the counter on the Hive instead of the Toski. That's interesting. Oh, that's trample? Okay. Well, that made that block bad. That made the block extremely bad. I was supposed to triple block the Hive in that case. I kind of just throwed away the ability to... Throw it away? Threw away the ability to kill one of their little bug friends here. I would like to draw cards that have meaning. Nope. We're in danger. Need to draw cards that actually do things. Yeah, opponent gets to draw a card here because of my mistake earlier. Also, I take 4 damage because of my mistake earlier. So, like, that's... 4 life in a card is generally a decent swing. Yeah, that's a problem. That's also a problem. Well, I'm probably going to lose this. I wasn't expecting having no card advantage. Oh, they should have probably been exiling their own stuff. Yeah, maybe that makes Lier a good top deck. Maybe that's actually a reasonable exile. I don't know. I haven't paid much attention to it. Okay, well, Egg is a card that blocks Graveyard Trespasser, I guess. Crawling Baron's eventually gonna kill me, so that's a concern. Kind of need to draw, discover the formula quite a bit. Alright, Ranger class is a problem. Getting very close to the point where Toski is too big to chump block anymore. Or, well, just kind of bump block with Hull, I guess, is actually a more accurate description of that. I feel like that's the wrong spot to have put their counters for Graveyard Trespasser, because Graveyard Trespasser is the card that I wanted to block with all the Storm Giants. At the very least, only put 1 so that I can't put Egg in front of it properly, but 2 is definitely not ideal, I don't think. Either way, not happy with the spot we find ourselves in. Desperately need some card advantage. Alright, well, opponent has exactly enough mana to play around this Jwari Disruption, so that's pretty bad. Alright, Fading Hope on Toski isn't literally nothing, so I guess that's something. Unfortunately, not many answers to Crawling Barons. Might have to bounce that here. Can I afford to bounce that instead of Toski? Oh, no, I think we're on plan bounce Crawling Barons and chump block Toski or else we die. No, I could just bounce Crawling Barons. I guess it would be better to... No, I want to reset the counters on Crawling Barons. Right, they have counters on stuff. I think my plan here is that I basically have to hit Lier or discover the formula. So what does the best job of playing around that? I'm going to have 2 Fading Hopes in the graveyard for Lier anyway, which means I'm going to have answers to the Crawling Barons. I think that means that I'm supposed to stop them from drawing 2 cards here. Divide by 0. Okay, that's not useless because I still have Mascot Exhibition, I think? Yeah. Alright. I think that's enough chump blockers to live. I still have to hold this Jwari Disruption in order to discard to an Unexpected Windfall. Not looking good still. Alright, 8/8 we can chump block. One imagines they then play Tosk. No, a Ranger class. Okay. That instead of Toski is kind of surprising. That seems like the worst possible distribution of +1/+1 counters, but okay. still have a 4/4 around. We take no damage. Pretty sure going to 1 isn't what I want. Jeez! Alright, well, yeah, I guess we can't win if we don't draw the ability to do anything. Goodness. I wonder, I didn't sideboard out any of the card advantage though, right? Other than Galvanic, no, did I even side out Galvanic? Wow, no, I think we just got real unlucky. I think I'm generally willing to keep a hand that has turn 2 Abrade into turn 3 Expressive Iteration, not be terribly upset by that. Mono green. That makes Abrade usually not stellar, but it is good against their 2-drops. Not when they foretell their 2-drops, though. I really want that Fading Hope. Against mono green, I really want that Fading Hope, but I can't afford to take it because I need land drops so badly. Alright, alright. We'll just accept the land drops in the spirit they are given to us and hope the opponent doesn't do things like play 4/4s that we can't interact with. Luckily, we do have the one of Hullbreaker Horror, which is, like, very good against green, so that's nice. Hey, Dave Judgment, that's interesting. That's got to be better than an Abrade, right? Pretty likely the opponent's main decking Snakeskin Veil in green. So I don't think I want to try to divide by 0 the Old Growth Troll. I think I probably do want to jam this Key to the Archive, though. I think I Unexpected Windfall, discarding the Abrade first, and then play Key off the treasures. And my rationale for that is that I have a chance to hit a tap land, or, well, I have a chance to make a land drop, potentially an untapped land that can pay for Key. And a tap land, even if it doesn't pay for Key, I think is still real good. Hey, Time Warp. That looks real good. I'm going to get rid of this burn down the house. These are the scenarios where Key looks good against aggro, but I don't know how much of a percentage of games against aggro where I just have enough time that Key takes over the game. Like, what percentage of matches against aggro is that in reality? Uncertain. Let's see, if I Time Warp, I can Day of Judgment. Do I want to do that? I probably want to play the Day of Judgment before I play Hullbreaker Horror at the very least. Opponent's going to feel rightfully robbed by Time Warp into Day of Judgment. To which I can only say that I'm sorry, opponent. Yeah. I'm sorry, opponent. That was rude of me. Okay. Mono green. I don't like this. Epiphany and Iteration definitely out. Disdainful Stroke actually, weirdly, not hyper terrible against mono green. They typically play a ton of 4-drops, but we definitely want Hullbreaker Horror. 4-drop ramp spell into Hullbreaker Horror is mostly the entire plan that we're trying to play around. To that extent, every other decision is sort of in pursuit of 4-drop ramp spell into Hullbreaker Horror. I think I'm willing to cut Discover the Formula. for Disdainful Stroke on the draw. It's weird. I think Disdainful Stroke is actually possibly better on the draw than it is on the play. Specifically because we want to Disdainful Stroke on our turn 3, but Disdainful Stroking on our turn 4 is bad. I think 2 is probably the most I can afford. Okay, I'm gonna keep this. This is not good. Okay, Key helps. Key helps give this hand hope. Opponent, if you just want to like foretell something here, like you did last time, that'd be stellar. Nope, Pack Leader. That's a bad thing for me. Okay. 2-drop 3/3s are good. Please play a 3-drop. Not a 2-drop. I'll take it. Mammoth, good enough. I'm willing to tempo anything I possibly can get my hands on right now. Expressive Iteration. Oh, does not hit a 1-mana spell. We will take Burn Down the House, because I could see that doing something, and we will make a land drop here. Although I doubt Spikefield Hazard will accomplish much. So ideally, opponent doesn't play a 4-drop with haste. No, they play Ranger class. Okay, that could be worse. That could be a lot worse. I could play Key here, but I'm potentially in a decent amount of trouble if they then destroy it. Well, you know what? I can play Unexpected Windfall, and if they destroy it and have Snakeskin Veil to get the Werewolf Pack Leader up to 5 toughness, I'm in trouble. The alternative to Key is to play Windfall. I think I'm playing Key. Putrefy is dangerous to keep. So is Approach, though. Alright, I'm going to take Putrefy. If I were to get rid of Spikefield Hazard here, then I wouldn't be able to play around Snakeskin Veil on Pack Leader next turn. So, Ranger class is probably going to turn Pack Leader into a 5/5. Which means Snakeskin Veil gets it out of range of Burn Down the House. Do we discard Expressive? I think it's either Expressive or Unexpected Windfall, but I'm not sure which. I think it's probably the second Windfall over the first Expressive, but it might be that Expressive is a better discard here. I'm kind of interested in Expressive in the sense that if we resolve Burn Down the House and everything dies, then maybe I follow up with Expressive next turn. Which... kind of interesting. Opponent not playing... Ooh, okay. Opponent not playing a 4-drop hasty creature there is probably good for me. And them not putting a counter on Werewolf Pack Leader is probably good for me. And them upgrading a Ranger Club. What is in their hand? All lands? Huh. Wow, Disdainful Stroke was like the best possible draw. I am very happy about that. Yeah, let's play this on black, why not? Alright, so now we're actually insulated from a haste creature that would otherwise be lethal here, because any 4-power 4/4 with haste with the pup trigger and the Ranger class counter is actually lethal. Okay, Old Growth Troll also lethal, but we have a Putrefy for that. Ranger class, concerning but not necessarily lethal. So I could animate all the Storm Giants here. If I wanted to try that. Probably safer than getting hit by Snakeskin Veil. Depending on where they put these counters, maybe that's not acceptable. They put one on the Wolf. If they'd made the Old Growth Troll a 7/7, I think I would have been scared of animating Hall here. So Inscription of Abundance makes the most sense for them to have decided to put the counters around in this way. I'm kind of nervous about that, but I don't really have a way I can play around that meaningfully. I could, like, Unexpected Windfall and try to find a removal spell. I don't think I can risk that. Have to block here to play around Snakeskin Veil. Alright, they just don't have anything. Just gives them a minimum 2 lethal threats next turn. 3 lethal threats next turn. Okay, Abrade answers Pup. Putrefy answers something else. Wait, isn't this sorcery speed only? No, it's not. Be cool if it was, though. Okay, so I can animate Hall, block something, Abrade something else, die. That's not really good enough. If I Windfall, I have to hit... Do I have a Fading Hope? No. So I have to hit like 2 Fading Hopes? Divide by 0, useless because it's tokens that I have to kill. Okay. Oh, Putrefy, Abrade, 1 short. Is Fading Hope good enough? No, I think we're 1 mana short. It was just too late, huh? Putrefy, Abrade plus Hazard. No, Spikefield Hazard never does anything, right? And we need to answer 3 threats. It kills a 4/4 with Abrade, but... So we Spikefield Abrade a 4/4, we Putrefy a 4/4. Oh, and then can I divide by 0 the Pup? Did we have enough mana for that? Maybe? No, Lier! good enough. I mean, not in time. Not good enough in time, but good enough eventually. We had 2 more than we do right now. Did we have the Spikefield in hand at that point? Or I guess we drew that Spikefield, but we discarded a different Spikefield. Yeah, I think you're right. I think that might have worked. Okay. So we just spent 4. 1 was a treasure, so we had 1, 3. So we had 5 mana after, so we had 7 mana before. Divide is 3, Abrade is 5, Spikefield is 6. Putrefy is 9. Does that mean we were still short? I think we might have still been short. Alright, so I'm actually a lot less certain of Disdainful Stroke on the draw. That said, I don't know what to replace it with, so never mind. We'll take the play. We'll keep this hand. It's got good cards. It needs to draw 1 land, preferably 2. Both of the preferably untapped variety, but Forsaken Crossroads right now will be fine. Unexpected Windfall, no. We are looking for untapped lands at this point in time. Opponent plays Pack Leader. It's a bummer. I would have preferred him to play Ranger class, but okay. More Windfalls. Not currently looking for you at the moment. Oh, alright, we did it. This is looking like the good anti-mono green hand. We'll continue to divide by 0. What am I supposed to get here? Probably like teachings, I guess? Maybe it's supposed to be environmental sciences, but I don't think so. Oh, deck. Deck. You're lovely. I don't think I actually want any of these, but I like the concept of Putrefy, so we're going to hold the concept of Putrefy in my graveyard. That might be useful with Lier later on. You never know. Got a 4/4 opponent? Nope. Whoa. Just a Pack Leader. That's kind of surprising. Alright. This is looking like a good start. I do not think I will be gaining life with Hullbreaker Horror. I just wish to play around fight spells. If I play a Hullbreaker Horror and block Werewolf Pack Leader, there's a possibility that they could, post-combat, play a Troll into Blizzard Brawl. The wobbly Unexpected Windfall is on sale for 200 gold today. I think that I probably already have the alt art Unexpected Windfall, but but I go through and remove all of the alt arts that I've got from decks before I play them. Also, opponent thinks that Hullbreaker Horror is as good against them as I tend to think it is. That's nice to know.